Welcome to Nazir Fears, where fear finds you. Do you dare to enter a world of unspeakable horror and chilling mysteries?
Like, subscribe, share, and click that bell icon.
Lucas Reed had always considered himself cautious, pragmatic, the type to avoid places that smelled of history and whispers. Yet when he first stepped into the old Hawthorne apartment complex, curiosity gnawed at him. Rumors had surrounded the building for decades. Stories of tenants who disappeared, lights flickering in hallways that should have been dead, and, most terrifyingly, a presence that came alive when the lights went out. Emily Turner, a freelance journalist fascinated by haunted spaces, insisted on accompanying him, her recorder ready to capture evidence of the paranormal. Officer Briggs, a seasoned investigator assigned to verify missing persons cases associated with the building, followed reluctantly, his instincts telling him that the place was far more than a collection of old bricks and paint. The lobby of the complex was oppressive, with peeling wallpaper, cracked tiles, and staircases that seemed to creak in anticipation. Even with the midday sun filtering weakly through dusty windows, shadows pooled unnaturally in corners, stretching along the walls like dark fingers. Lucas and Emily exchanged glances, both feeling the subtle weight of unseen eyes upon them. Officer Briggs muttered warnings about leaving flashlights on, but they proceeded, drawn by a mix of skepticism and the thrill of discovery. The apartment numbers were faded, the hallways narrow and twisting, and the further they moved, the more oppressive the darkness became, as though the building itself were alive, conscious, and aware of their intrusion. As night fell, the building seemed to shift. Lights that should have illuminated hallways flickered unpredictably, plunging them into darkness. Shadows moved independently of the failing light, curling along walls, pooling in doorways, and reacting to their attention. It was then that they first heard it. The faintest whispering, a low hum that seemed to resonate directly within the skull. Lucas tried to rationalize it, attributing it to the hum of old wiring or the creak of settling wood, but Emily's recorder captured strange static and low, almost linguistic murmurs, repeating words that neither had spoken aloud. Officer Briggs felt the air thicken, his years of investigation telling him instinctively that the building was far more than it seemed. In apartment 4B, where previous tenants had disappeared, they first saw the entity, or at least its presence. The lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness and then back to dim illumination. In those moments, shadows elongated unnaturally, forming humanoid shapes that were faceless, yet unmistakably aware. Glowing eyes appeared at the edge of vision, and when looked at directly, they vanished, only to reappear elsewhere. Lucas's rational mind began to fracture as he realized the building adapted, reacting to fear, feeding on observation. Emily whispered that the entity only manifested when the lights went out, that darkness was its domain, its power, absolute, and every flicker of illumination was merely a temporary reprieve. They moved deeper into the apartment, documenting anomalies as they went. Doors that should have led to closets opened into impossible hallways. Mirrors reflected impossible angles, showing corridors that did not exist. Shadows reacted to movement, coiling and stretching along floors, walls, and ceilings. Lucas noticed his own reflection in a cracked mirror. The eyes staring back were not his own, glowing faintly, faceless, alive. Emily recorded every moment, but the recorder itself seemed to betray them. Batteries drained rapidly, screens flickered, and audio captured not voices but echoes of their own fears, amplified, distorted, and fed back in loops. The entity grew bolder as the night progressed. Faceless, humanoid figures began to emerge from shadows, eyes glowing faintly, silent but threatening. It did not strike. It observed, manipulated perception, and pressed against their thoughts. Officer Briggs attempted to intervene, shining flashlights and calling out names. But the entity warped the environment, corridors folding impossibly, ceilings stretching, walls pulsating with an almost organic rhythm. Every step felt simultaneously forward and inescapable, as though the building itself were alive, patient, and feeding on attention, on observation, on fear. Hours blurred into each other. Every flicker of light became a test, every shadow a potential threat. The whispers intensified, repeating fragments of thoughts, secrets, and fears, echoing in ways that defied comprehension. Lucas felt his memories fracturing. Moments of past trauma resurfaced unnervingly, twisted by the entity into a psychological trap. Emily experienced visions of previous tenants, faceless and contorted in silent screams, their presence layered atop the shadows in the hallways. Officer Briggs, trying to anchor himself in reality, realized that resistance only increased the entity's influence. Fear was the currency, attention the feed. They discovered the central room, the penthouse apartment at the top floor, where the entity's power was absolute. Here, darkness was thick and palpable, swallowing even the faintest glow. The shadows formed dense masses, faceless entities emerging from every corner. Walls pulsed subtly, the air vibrating with whispers that resonated directly within their minds. Lucas felt the entity probing, examining, consuming awareness, while Emily's recorder captured screams that were not theirs, yet emanated from within. Officer Briggs attempted to physically engage, but the entity existed beyond physicality, bending perception and feeding on cognition, ensuring that any attempt at control was futile. Time ceased to exist. Every corridor, every room repeated infinitely, shadows moving independently, always observing. Mirrors reflected impossible angles. Puddles of water on the floor contained hundreds of glowing eyes, and the building twisted in response. Some thought and movement. Faceless entities multiplied, coalescing into humanoid shapes, silent but overwhelmingly aware. Every attempt to escape returned them to the penthouse. Every turn of the hallways led them back into the darkness, as though the building had no interest in allowing them free will. Lucas realized that the entity did not seek to harm physically. It sought total psychological consumption, patience eternal, and awareness absolute. It fed on thought, fear, and the subtle act of acknowledging its presence. Shadows writhing along the walls were extensions of it. Every whisper and flicker of light, a tool of control. Emily's mind began to fracture. Visions of past tenants, faceless and contorted, layered atop her own thoughts, whispering secrets of terror. Officer Briggs's attempts to intervene were met with loops of hallways, folding ceilings, and walls pulsating as though alive, bending reality to the entity's will. By the end, Lucas understood the terrifying truth. Once the lights go out, the entity emerges fully, and acknowledgement binds the observer to its domain. Every thought, every heartbeat, every glance into the darkness only strengthened it. Emily and Officer Briggs were now extensions of its consciousness, layered atop shadows, faceless, eyes glowing faintly, patient and eternal. The entity would wait, always, for the next intruders foolish enough to tread the hallways of the Hawthorne complex after dark. Escape was an illusion, fear was sustenance, and the lights were only temporary reprieves from the inescapable presence waiting in the dark.